I always prided myself on being a man who controlled his world. I built my own business from the ground up, turned it into a success, and provided my family with a life most could only dream of. A big house in the suburbs, vacations in Europe, a private school for our daughter, Sophia. I made sure they never wanted for anything. And in return, all I asked for was loyalty, devotion, respect. But life has a way of gutting you when you least expect it. I came home early that night, a rare thing since my work kept me occupied late into the evenings. But something gnawed at me all day. A hunch, a feeling in my gut that wouldn't let go. So I wrapped things up at the office, got in my car, and drove home ahead of schedule. The moment I walked through the door, I knew something was off. The house was too quiet, the kind of silence that screams. I moved through the hallway, my steps heavy against the marble floor. Then I heard it, the unmistakable sound of muffled voices upstairs, a woman's breathy giggle, a man's low murmur. It felt like the air was sucked out of my lungs. I climbed the stairs, my pulse hammering in my skull. The bedroom door was ajar. I didn't need to push it open to know what was happening inside, but I did anyway. And there she was, my wife Emily, tangled in our bedsheets, her body entwined with another man's. Some scrawny, smirking Batsid, barely out of his 20s. For a long second, no one moved. Then she gasped and scrambled to cover herself. Oh my God. I didn't let her finish. My fist connected with the guy's jaw before he could even think about getting out of my bed. He yelped like a kicked dog, crumpling to the floor. I wanted to rip him apart, to smash every bone in his body. But Emily's shriek cut through the red haze clouding my mind. Stop! Just stop! She was crying, clutching the sheets to her chest like they could protect her. Let me explain. I turned on her, my chest rising and falling in ragged breaths. Explain? My voice was low, dangerous. Explain what, exactly? That you've been spreading your legs for some little fuckboy while I'm out busting my A for this family? Tears streamed down her face, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no grief. Just raw, seething fury. That's when I heard it. A shuffle in the hallway. I turned my head and there she was, Sophia, my daughter. She was staring at me, eyes wide with shock, her hands shaking. But she wasn't looking at her mother in disgust. She was looking at me. Dad, stop, she whispered, her voice trembling. I stared at her, waiting for her to say something, anything to her mother, to call her out, to ask how she could betray us like this. But then, she said something that made my blood run cold. If you ruin our family over Mom's little affair, because I didn't tell you, you're not my dad anymore. I felt the words like a gunshot to the chest. I opened my mouth, but no words came. She knew. My daughter knew. All this time. And she said nothing. I didn't say a word. I just turned and walked away. Out of the bedroom, down the stairs, through the front door. I got into my car, started the engine, and drove. And I never looked back. I didn't vanish that night. I erased myself. Not just from my house, not just from my family, from everything. I left behind the business I built, the friends I had, the life I bled for. No one knew where I went, no phone calls, no messages. Just silence. And they didn't come looking for me. At first, I thought maybe they would, that Sophia would come to her senses, that Emily would try to make things right. But the days passed, then weeks, then months, nothing. And that's when I understood something. I was never the priority. Not to my wife, not even to my own daughter. All the years I spent breaking my back for them, making sure they never had to struggle, never had to wonder where their next meal was coming from, I did that. Mister and for what? For a wife who spread her legs for some punk the moment I was out of sight? For a daughter who saw me as nothing more than an ATM with a pulse? That's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't come from your enemies, it comes from the ones you die for. I met Emily when I was 24. Back then I was nothing. Just another scrappy kid with a temper, bouncing between dead-end jobs while trying to get my business off the ground. She was beautiful, soft-spoken, and she made me feel like I mattered. Like I wasn't just some street kid with too much aggression and not enough direction. She told me she believed in me, that I was different, and I fell for it. I married her young, convinced I'd found my ride or die. And when Sophia was born, I swore I'd give her everything I never had growing up: a stable home, security, a future. I worked like a machine to make that happen. I built my company from the dirt, clawed my way to the top, while my so-called competition either fell in line or got crushed beneath me. I dominated. That's what I was born to do. I wasn't some soft, whimpering office rat. I was a wolf, a fucking predator in a world full of sheep. And I brought that same fire home. My house, my fucking castle. My wife, mine, my daughter, protected. At least, that's what I thought. The betrayal burned hotter than any pain I'd ever known. It wasn't just the cheating. It was the lies. It was the way Emily played the perfect wife while letting some other man touch what was mine. The way Sophia, my own flesh and blood, kept her mother's dirty secret as if I was the problem. And what was my reward for breaking my knuckles against the world so they could live in comfort? Being thrown away like I was nothing. They didn't just betray me, they humiliated me. And Emily? She didn't even suffer for it. That's what ate at me the most. The injustice. Instead of being cast out as a faithless wain, she played the victim. She told everyone I abandoned them, that I had anger issues, like I was the villain, like she wasn't the one who took everything I built and pissed all over it. I heard she married the little fuckboy a year later, used my money for the wedding. That was the moment I decided, never again. Never again would I let anyone use me, play me, humiliate me. The man I used to be, dead and buried. I spent years off the grid, sharpening myself into something new, something harder. I made money in ways that don't get printed in newspapers. I fought in places where men don't walk away unless they earn it. I became the kind of man who doesn't get fucked over. And by the time I came back, I wasn't just stronger, I was untouchable. And I swore on my own blood, if they ever came crawling back, they'd learn what it means to betray a man like me. Emily never thought I'd leave. That was her mistake. I found out later, years after I disappeared, that she thought I'd come back. She told her friends I was just being dramatic, that I'd cool off and crawl back, begging to fix things. That was the kind of man she thought I was, a man who forgives, a man who forgets. She never truly understood who she married. Her motivation. Emily always wanted comfort, security. She grew up in a house where money was tight, where arguments over bills turned into screaming matches, where her mother begged her father not to drink away their last few dollars. She swore she'd never live like that. And when she met me, a man with nothing but ambition and raw determination, she saw her ticket. I wasn't rich yet, but I was going to be. She latched on, played the perfect girlfriend, told me everything I wanted to hear, and I bought every fucking word of it. But here's the thing about women like Emily. They don't actually want powerful men. They want tamed men. They want the drive, the fire, the hunger, until it burns them, until it reminds them that they're not in control. She wanted the money, the lifestyle, the respect of being married to a man who could dominate a room with a single look. But she didn't want me, not the real me, the moment she felt safe, when the house was big enough, when the bank accounts were full, when Sophia was in private school. She got bored. She started looking for something softer, something easier to control. And that's where that little fuckboy came in. He wasn't stronger than me. He wasn't smarter than me. He sure as hell wasn't richer than me. But he was weak. And that's what she wanted. Someone she could manipulate. Someone who would worship her, put her on a pedestal, never make her feel small. I was a storm, and she wanted a gentle breeze, so she found herself a fucking fanboy. And when I left, she thought she won. She thought she was finally free from me. She had the house, the kid, the narrative. She told everyone I was the monster, that I was unstable, dangerous, that I was abusive because I was dominant, because I expected loyalty, and society ate it up. No one asked about the cheating. No one asked how she could betray the man who gave her everything. They just nodded along, because it's always easier to blame the man. Nuclear revenge. 8 years later, I was untouchable. I didn't just rebuild, I ascended. By the time I came back, I had money most men could only dream of. And not the kind that came with public records. Not the kind you could take in a divorce. Emily never saw a fucking cent of it. While she was busy playing house with her new pet, I was out making sure I'd never be owned by anyone ever again. And that's when Sophia showed up. I was in a high-end restaurant, about to propose to my new girlfriend, a woman who actually earned her place beside me, a woman who understood what it meant to stand next to power. Then Sophia came stumbling in. She was crying, pregnant, begging, "Daddy, I need money. I made a mistake. Could you sponsor me?" She had no shame. 8 years, not a single call, not a single apology, and now she wanted my money. Like I was still the same fool who would give and give while being spat on. I looked at her, looked at my grown daughter, the same one who had chosen her mother over me, who had called my pain irrelevant, who had thrown me away like garbage. And then I laughed. Right there, in front of her, in front of everyone. Her face crumbled. She wasn't expecting that. She thought she could just cash in on the father she abandoned. I stood up, buttoned my jacket, and leaned in close. "Sweetheart," I said, voice low, cold, "I'm not your fucking father." Her breath hitched. What? You made that decision 8 years ago," I said. "Just remember?" Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Daddy, please." I turned to my bodyguard. "Get this girl out of my sight." And just like that, she was gone. Thrown away like they threw me away. No one saw it coming. Not her. Not Emily. And definitely not me. 8 years ago, when I was still naive enough to believe that family meant something. It didn't take long for Emily to call. I expected it. The moment Sophia was thrown out of that restaurant, she must have run straight to her mother, sobbing, blubbering, playing the victim like she learned from the best. I was in my penthouse, sipping a glass of whiskey, watching the city stretch beneath me. My fiancée was asleep in the next room, draped in silk sheets, my ring on her finger, one that Emily never deserved. Then, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered anyway, and there she was, Emily, hysterical. "You heartless bastard," she screamed, her voice raw. "How could you do that to Sophia? How could you just throw her away like trash?" I took a sip of my drink, calm, unmoved. "That's funny," I said, my voice like steel, "because that's exactly what you did to me." Silence. For the first time, Emily didn't have a response. No fake tears, no gaslighting, no bull's hot excuses. Because she knew. She knew I was right. For 8 years, I was a ghost. Not a single call, not a single message, nothing. And now, when they needed something, when life wasn't handing them everything on a silver platter, they came crawling back? I leaned back in my chair, my grip tightening around the glass. "You chose this," I said coldly. "She's your daughter," Emily shrieked. "How could you be so cruel? She's pregnant, for God's sake. She needs you," I laughed. A sharp, dangerous sound. "Now she needs me?" I said. "Where was she when I needed her?" More silence. Emily's breathing was ragged, like an animal caught in a trap. "You're not the man I married," she whispered. "No," I said, voice like ice. "I'm not." Then I hung up. And for the first time in 8 years, I felt nothing. That phone call wasn't the end. No, Emily and Sophia weren't done yet. Desperation makes people reckless. And when they realized tears wouldn't work on me, they tried something else. They tried force. Their biggest mistake. It started small, A lawsuit filed by Emily claiming I abandoned Sophia, that I owed her money, child support, back payments, even compensation for emotional distress. Hilarious. She must have forgotten who she was dealing with. I had lawyers who ate lawsuits like that for breakfast. They ripped through her claims so fast the judge almost laughed her out of court. Case dismissed. But she didn't stop. She went to the media, started telling sob stories about how her poor, struggling daughter was left destitute by her evil ex-husband. How I was a deadbeat father who refused to help his own flesh and blood. Sophia even made a funning video, crying on camera, playing the innocent victim. Pathetic. I could have ignored it. But no, I wanted them to feel it. I wanted them to understand that they didn't just lose me, they lost everything. My final move. I didn't just erase Emily from my life. I erased her entire future. Step 1, financial ruin. I had power, influence. I made a few calls. Her new husband, that weak little fuckboy, turns out he had a cushy corporate job. Had. Not anymore. Company went through a sudden restructuring. He was the first one out. Emily, the house she thought she won in the divorce, foreclosed. Turns out she wasn't as smart with money as she thought. She had no income, no savings. She had relied on me to keep her afloat. Now, gone. She went from queen of the castle to just another struggling divorcee in a rundown apartment. And Sophia? She wanted money? Fine. I sent her money. Exactly $1. No note, no explanation. Just a cold, brutal message. You are nothing to me. And I made sure she knew why. A few weeks later, a letter was delivered to her door. Inside was a printout of a bank transaction from 8 years ago. The day I left. It was a wire transfer, $5 million, to a trust fund, one that was meant for her. But the fund was revoked the same day she told me I wasn't her father anymore. She had a future, a fortune, a life free of struggle, and she threw it all away because of her mother, because of her own choices. Now, she had nothing, just like she left me. The last message. One night I got a text from Sophia, just 2 words. I'm sorry. I stared at it for a long time. Then I deleted it. No reply, no second chances. Some betrayals can't be forgiven, and I never looked back. There was no next part, not for them. For Emily and Sophia, the story ended there, broke, abandoned, paying the price for their own choices. But for me, it was just the beginning. A new legacy. I married the woman who earned her place beside me, a woman who understood loyalty, who didn't see me as a wallet or a tool, but as a man. We built something real, strong, and when our son was born, I made him a promise. I would raise him to be a man who never bows, never begs, and never forgets the taste of betrayal. Unlike Sophia, he would know what loyalty meant. Unlike Emily, his mother would never be the type to throw away a good man for a weak one. And when I looked at him, this new legacy, I knew I had done the right thing. Because real family isn't just blood. It's loyalty. It's respect. And the ones who betray you, they don't deserve a second chance. They deserve nothing. Years passed. Emily and Sophia faded from my life like old, forgotten ghosts. I never looked them up, never checked in. I had buried them in the past, and that was where they belonged. But fate has a way of throwing one last test in front of you. The final encounter. I was leaving a high-end restaurant, my wife beside me, our son's tiny hand in mine. He was 6 now, sharp-eyed, strong, already carrying himself like a future king. Then I heard it. A voice I hadn't heard in years. Dad? I turned. Sophia. Or at least, what was left of her. She looked nothing like the bright, spoiled girl she used to be. The years had weighed on her. Her once perfect hair was tangled, her clothes cheap and worn, her eyes sunken with the kind of exhaustion only the real world could teach. And she was alone. No husband, no family. Just a woman who had thrown away her future and finally realized she had nothing left. For a moment, she just stared at me, as if she couldn't believe I was real. Then she whispered, "I made a mistake." My son squeezed my hand, my wife stepped closer. And I looked at her the way a king looks at a peasant. Unmoved, uninterested. She had her chance. She had years to make it right. Instead, she only came back when she had nowhere else to go. I leaned down, just enough so my words could cut her where they needed to. "My daughter died 8 years ago," I said. Her face crumbled. She reached for me, a desperate, pathetic motion. I stepped back. Then I turned, walked away, and never looked back. Some men forgive, some men forget. I do neither. Loyalty is everything, and betrayal, that's the one thing I never let go of.